Pasta is surrounded by culture and tradition, but for most people at home, there are no rules. So today, I've asked 4 world-class chefs how they make their pasta at home. This is not Italian food. This is home cooking. So maybe don't show this video to Nonna. A huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get stuck in. Hello. First up, we've got Paul Carmichael. He used to run Mamafuku here in Sydney, 3-hat restaurant, incredible. He's since moved back to New York and he runs Kabawa Mamafuku, but hopefully we can get him to come back down to Australia because he's an absolute legend.
Hey Andy, what's up?
What's up, Paul?
Thanks for having me do this. This is my pick because A, I love it, B, I grew up with it, and C, it's easy to have leftovers and put in your freezer for later. Let's go. You want me to make a pasta for home. So we're gonna make macaroni pie. So we're gonna start with our pasta. Macaroni, grab it, break it into pieces.
Right, maybe macaroni's a bit different in the US because I have no idea how I'm supposed to break that. Let's cook it anyway.
You put it into boiling salted water and let it boil until it's about al dente. After it comes out of the water, cool it down. When it's cool, you're gonna add shredded mozzarella and then you're gonna set that aside. Next thing, we're gonna become a little bit Frenchy. We're gonna make a little Bajan Mornay sauce. So we're gonna have butter, onions, red capsicum, bay leaf. Sweat that out a little bit and you're gonna add milk. Once the milk is in there, it'll thicken up and you'll have a bit of a sauce. You're gonna season that sauce with a bit of ketchup, mustard, and Bajan hot sauce. Now we're cooking. Then add cream cheese and cheddar cheese. Now you got your beautiful, wonderful, sexy Mornay sauce. You're gonna take that, add it to the macaroni and mozzarella mix, and you're gonna pour it into a safe casserole dish that's gonna go in the oven. At this point, your oven should be heated to 180 degrees Celsius or 375 degrees Fahrenheit. I know those don't really add up, but just do what I say. We're gonna bake that until golden brown, pull it out, add more cheese because we're decadent, put it back in, more golden brown. Pull that out, let it cool a bit.
Lava.
Eat. Yum, 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 in everybody's tum, tum, tum. Peace.
It still looks like it's gonna destroy my roof of my mouth. I want that corner piece. Look at that little crunchy corner edge. You know, truth be told, growing up, I was never like the biggest mac and cheese fan. I always found it really bland. One thing that is not is bland. It's got a great spice from that habanero sauce, full of cheesy goodness. Those crunchy bits are everything. Yummy, yummy for my tummy, tummy. Cheers, chef. Our next chef needs no introduction. Chef Jose has over 40 restaurants, including the 2 Michelin star minibar. He's also the founder of the World Central Kitchen, an incredible organization that feeds hungry people all over the world. If I have 1/10 the amount of passion that this man has for life, I'll be a happy man.
Hello, Chef Andy. Hola, ¿qué tal?
Chef.
So what is this? Pasta, right? You wanted pasta. Here is pasta. This is like angel hair. In Spanish, we call it fideos. Very thin, cooks very quickly, under 2 minutes. But this is very strange pasta, right? Because you see it's kind of beautiful golden color. And the golden color is because we saute the pasta in oil, or even you can roast them in the oven. You can find this pasta, but if you don't find it, you can buy a capellini number 10 and then you break it with your hands into little pieces like this. If you saute in the pan, you need to be very careful because this pasta will burn, so you need to bring the temperature down. What this does is gives very good, unique brown flavor to the pasta, almost like if you were doing brown butter in a way. And this pasta also will allow us then to do this dish. This dish is called bruschetta, and what this pasta, as is drying, I cook it with this amazing broth made out of the shells of this ram and tomato, and we added a little bit of this, is called salmorra, which is a little bit of onion and tomato and garlic puree. It's kind of a base. Traditionally, we will add alioli, and we're gonna add this time this head-on ram. Very amazing. And here, my friend, what you see is how the pasta now, as it's drying, is trying to look into the air. This is very traditional. I hope you can see it. And Andy, the extra bonus is take a look at the end what happens. The beautiful bottom that gets nice and crunchy against the pan. This is like the perfect taco, my friend. Ah. Bye.
Now this is super interesting. I have never had a pasta like this before. That crispy bottom bit is everything. I've never made that before, nor have I even seen it being made before, and it's incredible. The texture element of that crispy bottom, the middle layer of the pasta being lovely and al dente, and the top being kind of crispy as well, incredible. With that rich seafood broth, full of umami from the tomatoes and the onions and the garlic, that's a stunning dish. Gracias, chef. That's so good. But before we get into the next recipe, let me tell you about today's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace has everything you need to get your ideas off the ground. With design intelligence, you can bring your ideas to life, backed by 2 decades of design expertise and AI technology. You'll have a functional website in just a few clicks. Design intelligence makes it possible for you to create a website tailored exactly to your needs and build a digital identity that suits your online presence. If building off of a template is more your thing, then Squarespace has you covered. Whatever kind of site you're building, there's a template for it. Customize your look, update your content, and make your site your own to stand out online on every device. Squarespace enables you to showcase your products in a way that works for you. You can optimize your product listings for more sales, manage your inventory and customers in one place. So go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/AndyCooks to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Now let's get back to that pasta. Next up, we've got Ivan Orin, who is an absolute legend in the ramen world. Ivan was the first person to open a ramen shop in Japan, and it went...
The first person?
You wrote this, mate, not me.
The first American, bro.
Oh, right. Yeah, Ivan invented ramen. Ivan is the first American to open a ramen shop in Japan, and it was incredibly successful. Since then, he's brought Ivan Ramen back to New York City and also in London.
Hey Andy, thanks for having me today talking about pasta, man. As you know, I am a noodle guy and I love pasta. The dish I've chosen today will piss off purists, but I don't care. It's ketchup spaghetti or spaghetti Napolitan, a dish that was popular in Japan in the 1950s and that spread like wildfire to Kisaten where you could eat it today. I think they made it to make Americans happy. It's an easy dish to make. You know, you want to have a big pot of salted boiling water. I like to use a bit of a thicker spaghetti, but any kind will work. We're going to start off with some diced extra smoky bacon and those little arabiki Japanese sausages, if you can find them, sliced into rings. Toss them in that pan and cook them until they're a bit crispy. Pick them out with a slotted spoon and throw them on a paper towel. Add diced onions and garlic and green peppers and button mushrooms and cook them down until they're tender and nice. Now you add your ketchup onto that.
Don't know about this one, chef.
Just enough to coat everything and cook it till it's a bit glossy.
Guess that's amount.
You got your pasta cooking in the back. Add it when it's just a little bit before al dente and add it into your pan. Cook it in there a little longer, maybe a splash of pasta water, and have it all just fuse up with those delicious ketchup flavors. I love ketchup. Plate it up. You know, people will say put the canned Parmesan cheese on there, and that's what they do in the shops, but let's just use some good old-fashioned delicious Parmesan cheese. Serve it with some Tabasco and some black pepper. Bon appetit, man.
I think the Tabasco and the black pepper are really key here, because I think without it, for me, it might be a little bit sweet. I think the heat and the kind of salty vinegariness and the heat from the pepper cut through that sweetness pretty well. It reminds me of a dish my mum used to make. It's very homely, it's easy to pull together, it's quick to make with ingredients that are easy to find in any supermarket, even the most basic supermarket, but I reckon you make a better bowl of ramen than you do pasta, chef. Next up, we've got Wally Defrain. Wally is an absolute legend of the chef world. He's like your favorite chef's favorite chef. He had a restaurant WD-50 for many years, it had a Michelin star, and since then he's gone on to open Stretch Pizza in New York. Wally, I cannot wait to come and eat one of your pies with you very soon.
Hey Andy.
Oh, hey Wally.
I've come up with something I call my phony bologna bolognese, because it's enough twists and turns on a traditional bolognese to upset just about every Italian grandmother out there. So I start with chopped up onions and garlic, and we sweat that in a lot of olive oil. I actually don't like carrots in my sofrito because I feel like it can make it too sweet, which is not something I like to see in my sauce. I know that will not be popular. Celery I love, but it's hard to have. So if I have the celery, I'll put it in. If I don't have the celery, I won't worry too much about that. And then from there, adding in some delicious ground beef, like a nice 80-20, something like that. So there's some good flavor and some good fat in there. And we'll cook all that together until the meat's nicely browned and the vegetables are soft and tender. And if there's a little too much fat, you can drain some of the fat out and save that for later. But then I'll deglaze it with white vermouth, which just something I really like. And I love the flavor that it brings to versus, say, the traditional white wine or something like that. And I'll bring that down pretty far till it's pretty much sec. And then I'll add some chicken stock to it, and we'll put that in there and bring that down about 3/4 of the way. So you've got some nice flavor in that sauce is beginning to start and build those layers. And then from there, this will also be very controversial and unpopular. I'll reach for some store-bought tomato sauce.
Lucas. Don't know if Nat would agree with this.
Bring it up to a boil, turn the heat down. I let that simmer for a long time, 35, 45, 50 minutes till it's starting to get thick and rich and delicious. And then I'll add a splash of heavy cream and another very traditional Italian ingredient, cream cheese. I like a little cream cheese at the end. Cream cheese is sort of like a secret weapon, I think, for many a chef and many kitchens. And so that will help give that sauce some body and some richness. Last but certainly not least, finish it with a bunch of freshly grated parm, some Worcestershire sauce, because I think that there's layers of umami in Worcestershire that play nicely with all those other ingredients. And of course, the very traditional Italian ingredient, soy sauce. I like a little soy sauce in there, adjust the salt. Again, you know, Italian food really is at its best just layers and layers of umami. And so why not put some soy sauce in there to help build it? And then you can go either dried pasta, fresh pasta, certainly, whatever works. We often go with something twisty twirly that the sauce can cling to in a nice way. And that's our phony bologna bolognese. Thanks so much.
Wally Defrain's phony bologna. Let's have a taste. He's not wrong. There is layers to this. And you know why I think the cream cheese works so well? Is that it allows the sauce to stick to the pasta really, really well. It's rich, deep, beefy flavor and full of umami and not too sweet. Delicious. All right. I know you've all been waiting for this one. Yeah, I know you haven't. It's all right. This is a riff on a lasagna. Don't come at me in the comments. It's not a traditional lasagna. It's not even really a lasagna. Technically, a lasagna needs to be layered. This is not layered. It's the flavors of lasagna. But it's what I call like a lazy lasagna or a one-pot lasagna. So, first things first, ground beef, 80-20, olive oil in a pan, lots of salt, get it nice and brown. All right, it's a weeknight, so we're gonna be smart with our time. While that beef's getting sealed off, we're gonna get our onions and garlic chopped up. It's really important that we get good color on our beef. So break it up into little pieces, into the pan with the oil, and then just leave it there for like 10 minutes. Let it get some good color. Once it started to get nice and brown, then we can start moving it around and breaking it up even further. So why is it so important that we get good color on our meat? Well, what's happening is a Maillard reaction. So the Maillard reaction, breaking down the protein with heat, is what creates the umami flavor in beef. That's why getting a good crust on your steak or getting lots of browning when you're browning beef mince like this is so important. I know that. Caleb didn't tell me. So just quickly, I talked earlier about the World Central Kitchen that Jose and his team run. They've made over 600 million meals for people who need it the most. It's a charity that's super close to me for someone who works in food and is very thankful that I can afford to eat good quality food every day. I know not everyone has the means to donate, but if you do have a few dollars that you want to donate to them, then the link is below. All right, our meat is nicely brown, but we can see here that we have far too much fat in here for what we want. That's all the fat that's rendered out of that beef. So what we're gonna do is remove some before we add our onions and garlic and start sweating that down. That's straight up beef tallow, don't throw that out. You can always add it back if you need some more fat or save it to cook a steak in later. In case you're still hungry and need a steak, I guess. This is a very standard, basic, in America you'd call it gravy. Here we'd call it like a meat sauce or ragu. And you can toss this through pappardelle, spaghetti, fusilli, whatever pasta you want. Or you can do like we're gonna do and break in some lasagna sheets, which are gonna cook in the sauce. And then we'll top it with some ricotta and replace with our bechamel. Now, if you are subscribed, you know recently I've been preaching about whole tomatoes. However, there are exceptions, and this is one of them. The recipe for this dish is linked below, but we want chopped tomatoes for this one. So the reason we want chopped tomatoes instead of whole ones in this one is because we need it to be quite a wet tomato sauce. The reason we need it to be quite wet is because we need to cook our pasta in it, and it's going to absorb more moisture than you probably think, which is also why we have more passata to go in there later. So here we're going to toss some basil in. You want these bits that aren't like the best ones. The best ones we'll keep for the top. If I'll show you these ones, they're like a bit small, a bit ropey, perfect for this part of the sauce. And don't forget to wash your cans out, all right? Or Nonna will tell you off. We don't want Nonna telling you off. And then if you put a string in between them, you can create like a little thing. All right, a little bit of salt, some pepper. We've got our onions, garlic, our dried oregano, basil, and obviously our beef and tomatoes in here. Come up to a simmer. Now it's time to get the pasta in. So I first saw this on Andrew Babish's channel a long time ago. I think this technique of cooking pasta in sauce, like Jose's one, is a great technique, especially for midweek pastas. Adds a lot of flavor. More importantly, saves dishes. Bring that to a very light simmer. We'll start checking it after 15 minutes. So it's 15 minutes. About halfway, I gave it a good stir, really softly to try and make sure we didn't break up that pasta too much. Time to add some cheese, one last stir, and then we just need to garnish it. And if it's a little bit thick, just add a little bit of water. We used to call that Thames reduction when I lived in London. If you don't know what the River Thames is, that joke means nothing. It's actually crazy how much water or liquid that pasta absorbs, which is why it's so important to season your pasta water. Ricotta. I'm a big fan of using ricotta in lasagnas, even in real lasagnas, instead of bechamel. For one, it's a lot easier than making bechamel, but I think it's actually a little bit lighter too. My mate Ben Sherry would probably argue with me, he's a bit of a lasagna purist. I reckon he's a bechamel only type of guy. Hey Ben, is ricotta all right in lasagna?
That's a terrible suggestion, Andy.
Some basil and a good drizzle of olive oil to finish. Yum. Let's have a taste. Is it lasagna? No. Does it taste like a lasagna? It's close, but not really. But it is delicious. It doesn't require that many dishes. And that motorbike's really loud. Oh, you got Rex. No, that's a Boxer engine for sure. Personally, I think it's fascinating to see what chefs cook at home. And I think there's some clear distinctions from where people have grown up to how they cook at home. Cooking at home is not about being perfect. It's about nourishing the people you love in a time-efficient way. A huge thank you to the 4 chefs that joined me on the video today. I appreciate you all, and I can't wait to have a meal with you soon. And thank you guys for always tuning in and watching. I really appreciate it. Like this video if you haven't already, and if you're not subscribed, then consider doing so down below. We'll see you next week. Peace.